The topic of celebrities who lost their lives at the hands of their partners is a shocking and disturbing reality that cannot be ignored. These senseless acts of violence have left fans and the world at large reeling in disbelief, wondering how such heinous crimes could be committed by the very people who were supposed to love and care for them. Domestic violence is a scourge that affects millions of people around the world, and it's even more disturbing when it involves high-profile individuals who are seemingly living perfect lives. The truth is, behind the glamour and glitz of Hollywood, domestic violence can be just as prevalent as it is in any other community. In fact, the pressures of fame, the constant scrutiny, and the inflated sense of ego can sometimes contribute to the escalating violence. What's even more alarming is that many of these cases go unreported, and even when they do, they're often swept under the rug or hushed up to protect the reputations of those involved. The statistics are staggering, with 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men experiencing physical violence at the hands of their partners. And when we look at high-profile relationships, the numbers are just as disturbing, with many celebrities speaking out about their own experiences with domestic violence. But despite the awareness, the problem persists, and it's time we stop turning a blind eye to this epidemic. Domestic violence is not just a personal issue, it's a societal problem that requires a collective effort to combat. We need to create a culture where victims feel empowered to speak out, where perpetrators are held accountable, and where we can work together to prevent these tragedies from occurring in the first place. Selena Quintanilla, the queen of Tejano music, was shot and killed by her fan club president Yolanda Saldivar in 1995. Selena's death was a shock to her fans and the music industry, and it highlighted the darker side of fandom and the dangers of obsession. The case against Yolanda Saldivar was complex, with allegations of embezzlement and manipulation, but ultimately, it was Selena's trust in her that led to her downfall. Another tragic case is that of Dorothy Stratten, the Playboy model who was murdered by her estranged husband Paul Snider in 1980. Dorothy's death was a shock to the Playboy community, and it raised questions about the objectification of women and the consequences of toxic masculinity. Paul Snider's possessiveness and jealousy ultimately led to Dorothy's tragic demise, and her story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of controlling relationships. Christina Grimmie, the talented singer and former The Voice contestant, was shot and killed by Kevin Loibl, a deranged fan, in 2016. Christina's death was a senseless act of violence that left her fans and the music industry reeling in shock. The case against Kevin Loibl highlighted the dangers of social media obsession and the need for greater security measures at public events. Perhaps one of the most shocking and tragic cases is that of Lana Clarkson, the actress who was shot and killed by Phil Spector, the music producer, in 2003. Lana's death was a senseless act of violence that was fueled by Phil Spector's ego and narcissism. The trial against Phil Spector was highly publicized, and it highlighted the need for greater awareness about domestic violence and the dangers of toxic masculinity. Lana Clarkson's story is especially heartbreaking because of the immense talent and potential she had. She was a rising star, with a promising career ahead of her, and her death was a waste of a life that was taken far too soon. The circumstances surrounding her death are still shocking to this day, and they serve as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence. The stories I've shared today are a sobering reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence. It's time we stop romanticizing abusive relationships and start taking action to prevent these tragedies from occurring in the first place. We need to educate ourselves and others about the signs of domestic violence, and we need to create a culture where victims feel empowered to speak out. Thanks for watching, and I want to hear from you in the comments below. What are your thoughts on domestic violence and how we can work together to prevent it? Also, if you want to learn more about celebrity news and domestic violence awareness, be sure to check out our other videos.